Have you ever wanted to create modular armor that actually fits and animates on a player character? With modern AI tools, it's easier than you think. In this tutorial, I'll show you how I went from a single prompt to a fully modular armor set. We'll design with Midjourney, generate the mesh in 3D AI Studio, jump into Blender to slice the model apart and turn it into clean individual armor pieces, rig it using AccuRig, then finish everything inside Unity as a game-ready animated character. Let's get started. So we're going to start off here in Midjourney, and I don't know how many of you have played EverQuest before, but it was one of my favorite games growing up, and Barbarian was my favorite race by far. So I've gone ahead and created a 3D model of sort of like a stylized, maybe more modern day Barbarian from EverQuest, and this is the guy that I wanted to make and create an armor set for. So we're going to head over here to 3D AI Studio. And they have this new Nano Banana Pro editing model for images that I wanted to give a try. So what I did is I first loaded it up, and first thing you want to do obviously is make him in a T-pose. So we're going to go ahead and change the look a little bit just to get him a little bit more game rig ready. So that was pretty easy. He's looking pretty good here. Now, obviously the problem is we can't just put this into a image to 3D renderer because the armor is going to be stuck. The geometry is going to be all messy. So what I did is I had it edit to remove the armor and have him kind of bare chested and just some cloth pants. That way we'll kind of have, the base body to work with where we can add the armor onto. And the cloth pants, they'd be a little bit too baggy and kind of stick through. So I actually changed it to just shorts there. So we want it to be obviously sit underneath the armor as best we can there. So next I'm going to go into the image to 3D tool, and we're using Onion 3D again, and the normal generation type. And then I have the face count set to 60,000 here, and triangle polygon type, and click OK. And so after that renders, you can take a look here and see what the model looks like. Textures are nice. The geometry looks pretty solid. So I think we've got a pretty good baseline to start with here. So this is the guy that we're going to use for our base model. Now, the next thing I'm going to do here is actually add two images. I'm going to grab the one that we just used to create the 3D model with the guy with the shorts on, and then I'm going to put that other one in as well with the armor. And what I'm doing here is I want to separate the armor. I want to create armor that's in the exact same pose and proportions as the image of the guy that we just created the 3D model on. Now, this is very important because later when you see we pull the 3D models in, we're going to want the armor to line up as closely as possible to the character's model inside of Blender. So next, I did a few more tweaks here. When it first came out, the armor was kind of missing a few pieces here and there. I guess this could have worked, but I kind of wanted the armor to fully cover every part of his body. So I just kind of said extend the plate armor to cover the arm, and then basically completely cover it out there. So now we have another image that looks it's the same pose, same proportions, everything as the character model. So I ran this through image to 3D again, and I like the look. I didn't use PBR texture on this. You'll see later we kind of play around with the materials within Blender a little bit. So now we're going to hop over here into Blender. I'm actually using Blender 5.0, which just came out, I think, within the last week or so. I didn't really look closely at what all the updates are, but I'll maybe do that in another video. And so I'm importing the player model first, and then I'm going to go ahead and import that armor model that we had as well. And you'll see here, it's very surprisingly, maybe not so surprisingly, but it's actually very, very close to matching. And as you'll see here, a little bit of the player model is going to stick out. And what I'm doing right now is I'm lining up the armor to be perfectly centered with the player model. This is important because what we're going to actually do is split both of these models in half and then mirror them. It's just going to make it easier for the way that we break up the armor. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding a new cube, and I'm just going to go ahead and scale it down here, and then I'm going to move it up over here just to kind of go ahead and cover the left side of his body here. So for this operation, we're basically, what we're going to do is just chop off from both the armor and the player model exactly half of what it is. So I just pressed 1 to go into the front view here, and so I want to make sure that I get this as close as possible, because I do, like I said, we're going to operate on half of the model, and then we're going to mirror everything at the end to complete the full model here. So yeah, I'm just adjusting this here, trying to get it in place. And so once that's good, you're going to want to go ahead and select the object and then go to Bool and choose Difference. And what that will do, I'm doing it once for the armor and once for the player. And so that'll chop it right in half. So now we have a perfect half here, and I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in. Now you might see this happen. I'd add some extra vertices sometimes because of where the block was positioned. That's not a huge deal at all. You just want to go ahead and select the object that has the extra vertices, go into edit mode, and then choose mesh, clean up, and then delete loose, and that will get rid of those extra loose vertices for you. So pretty easy cleanup there. Now, just to kind of show you guys what this is going to look like and sort of a test for myself, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the player model, and then see how I'm changing the scale to -1 over there in the inspector. This will basically just do a flip, do a mirror of the player model there. So I just wanted to see what it looked like. You don't want to get too far into this and realize you didn't slice it quite right and it doesn't look right, but you can see there just a rough check. Looks pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with the way I think this is going to turn out once we get this all modularized and pieced together. So we'll go ahead and actually just delete that for now. And so now this is where things might get a little tricky, and I will be honest, this took me a lot of trial and error to figure out what the most optimal way to do this was. But what we're going to want to do here is split the geometry up for both the player body and the armor into the modular chunks of armor that you saw in the intro video. And so in order to do this, what I'm doing is creating a new cube. I'm adding a cube to the scene, and then I'm, in this case, actually duplicating it because I'm going to want a little bit of a bend here. So some of the cuts are a little bit easier than others. The feet and the shoulders are particularly tricky. So I made 2 copies of these, and you want them to be touching each other. So you can see I'm trying to position that so there's no space between them. And then a little trick that I figured out to change the pivot actually is click that and go into edit mode, hit tab to go into edit mode, and then select the edge on the bottom there. And then hit Shift S and choose cursor to selection. That will place the 3D cursor in the middle of the edge there. And then just right click on the object and choose origin to 3D cursor. And so you'll see what this does is allows me to rotate and pivot this so it's still connected to the other piece of geometry here, which is very important because when you slice these, you want a solid piece of geometry in between them. So I'm making a duplicate of this just to kind of have on hand. So I'm just gonna kind of move that over there and hide it for now. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and move these over here. And then, like I said, I have that pivot right there in the middle. Just get rid of that one. And so this does not have to be perfect. I know, you might want to spend a lot of time getting this looking just right. But in reality, you're just breaking this up into modular pieces that'll kind of be visible when you show and hide these things. So we're going to go ahead and try and line it up with the bottom of the leg armor here. So once you've got that in a good position, you're going to want to go ahead and select both of these faces and hit Ctrl J, and that will combine them into a single piece of geometry. And this is important because of the way the tool that we're going to use to slice these, works. It's called Booltron. So I'll show you that here real quick. So Booltron, here's the GitHub page. It's basically a more enhanced version of the Boolean tool that comes out of the box in Blender. But if you want to install it here, you just go to Edit Preferences, click on the Add-ons tab here, and then you can search for it. It's just called Booltron, and then you can check it to install it. Now I've adjusted some of the defaults here. So for the solvers, I changed that from manifold to exact for both the primary and secondary objects, and I also checked the self-intersection and hole-tolerant checkboxes as well there. So that'll give you probably the best result. So I'm going to select the player model here. And then I'm going to go to Mobject Booltron and choose Slice. And this little report sometimes pops up. You can just click off and ignore it. But basically what this did is it added a little tiny slice of geometry right there in between the leg and the ankle. So we're going to want to go into edit mode here and then press P. And this will bring up a separate, and we want to choose by loose parts. So we're basically, there's a little gap now in between the foot, like where the ankle is at, and the player's leg there. So I'm going to go back into object mode and do the exact same thing on the armor here as well. So again, select the face first, then select the armor, and go to Object, Booltron, and Slice. And this is important because we're slicing them at the exact same spot. So you can kind of see where this is going. We're going to break up both the armor and the player in the same areas and make them kind of match up to the parts of the armor. So once you kind of get through that, you can go over here and select the different parts that just got split apart. So up in the hierarchy here, I'm going to actually start. So I'm going to hide the armor first just so we can see the player and get rid of some of these cubes here. And so then I wanted to show you what the final result of that split operation was here. So you can see there's player, player.001, and player.002. Now player.001 is actually the entire mesh that we started with. So we don't actually really need that. And player.002 is going to be everything besides the foot. So you can kind of see it's cut off right at the ankle there and above. And then player becomes the foot on the bottom. So we really don't need that middle one there. We can just go ahead and delete that one. So now we have basically a separated piece for the foot. You could see it is actually a little bit separated physically there when we zoomed in. But that's okay. We can just kind of clean that up later. So what I'm going to do here actually is I'm going to go ahead and start renaming these pieces. So this will be the player foot, just so we can kind of start to keep track of things here. And then that player.002 object is going to be what we continue to edit and slice with our planes. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the armor. So again, select the faces and then select the armor and then go to that Booltron and slice. And yeah, you can ignore the error that pops up like that. And then we're going to select it and go into edit mode. And then hit P again and do by loose parts. And that'll split it up just like it worked for the player model. So again, here you can see in the top, we've got an armor dot 001, 002, and 003 actually showed up this time too, which is okay. We can just kind of select these one by one and see what happened. So it looks like 003 is actually a little loose piece around the knee there. So no big deal, we can just get rid of that. But now, you know, as you can see, that armor turned into the armor foot. So I renamed it to armor foot, and we can get rid of the .001 because that was the whole remaining mesh. And then .002 is going to be the rest of the mesh, which we're going to continue to edit here and slice apart into the modular pieces. So hopefully that's starting to make sense. So I'm going to speed this next part up, just following the exact same process here for the different parts where the armor splits. So we're doing the waist here right now. I'm just kind of rotating it into place to kind of match the edge of that armor piece there. And like I said, exact same thing as we did before. We'll select the player model, and then we'll select the armor model, and then separate by loose parts. So I'm just gonna kind of go through this. One thing I'll say as you're watching through this is I went through several iterations, and this was the best way I could find to do this so far. There's probably going to be a more optimized way out there, I'm sure, but this was the easiest way I could find after a number of different things that I looked at, a number of different options that I tried. Things like exploding out the individual parts of armor into their own pieces, and then turning those into individual pieces. The problem with that was that they didn't line up very well, so there was a lot of gaps, and you could kind of see the player's skin underneath. And I tried a number of different things, and this ended up being the at least most consistent way I could get, where everything would kind of match up exactly where you want it to. So there's no gaps, there's no missing chunks or anything like that. So again, there might be a better way out there, but with the models that I was getting from the image to model gen, this definitely worked for me. So that's kind of why I'm showing this right now. So so we're doing the shoulder right now. That was probably one of the trickiest ones, again, just because it kind of cuts through where the pauldron is there. And I had to do the same trick before, where I kind of combined those two planes together and got them just positioned right to kind of show where the arm sort of ends and the torso begins there. So last little piece we're going to do here is right at the elbow. So this will kind of distinguish between the armor plate and then the more like the bracer gauntlet type area. As far as the hands go, those are a little tricky, and I will show you a little bit later when I rig that I'm actually not going to add any finger bones for this. I'll probably follow up with this for a more in-depth deep dive of trying to get the fingers to line up and animate, but those are kind of their own beast in and of themselves. So here we are after lots and lots of slicing using the Booltron tool, and I went ahead and I named all of the parts accordingly. So this is kind of a nice little test here to see what all the different parts are from the armor and the player model, and then kind of see how they line up. Because we obviously, if you're thinking about this from a player character point of view, you might only have one or two pieces of armor, and the rest, you still are unequipped, and you want to show the skin for those parts, but you want to show the armored parts for the other ones. So we got this in a state now where we've got everything nicely named. We've got nice chunks, to represent each part of the armor. And if I zoom in here again, I kind of want to show this. So that the slice actually, like I said, it physically does cut through the geometry. If this bothers you, like I said, you can just grab those objects and move them together a little bit. It's not that huge of a deal. You can barely notice it from a distance. But at any rate, let's move on to the fun part where we get to mirror every single one of these objects. So we have a full body player character. So first thing I'm going to do is select everything and then hit Shift D and duplicate all of them out. So we've got 2 instances now of everything, and then you can see on the bottom right there, basically what you want to do is set the scale of the second instance to -1 on the x-axis. So this is just telling it to flip it, do a mirror image of it, and so we'll go ahead and speed this up. But basically I'm just grabbing each one of these one by one and setting the scale to -1 on the x scale to flip them over and make the full player character and body armor. All right, so we've got the mirror of him now, and you can see there is a little bit of a gap both between the player model and the armor model itself. So what you can go ahead and do is just select all of those new instances and then just drag them over a little bit. So it's actually okay if you get a little bit of overlap here, because what I actually did, and I didn't catch this on screen, but After I had these all in place, I selected the two body armor parts and just hit Control J to combine them together to make them the same piece of geometry. And the same thing with the legs as well there. So what I'm doing here now is I'm just moving, these pieces over. So it's okay. Like I said, even if it overlaps a little bit, that's totally fine. Because once you combine them there into the same geometry, they'll be seamless. And so I'm moving from the right side first and then from the left side as well a little bit, just to get them kind of lined up there and look good. And so, yeah, that looks pretty solid. There's no gap anymore. So that's kind of what we were looking for. So now we're ready to get this guy into Unity and see what he looks like. And so I did this the first time, just kind of left everything in the same settings. And when I pulled it into Unity, it was really messed up. You can see I think what happened is the material kind of got thrown off because of the mirroring, because of the scaling. And so I had to go back into Unity and do a couple of things here. So first I went back into edit mode, and then I selected all of the vertices. And then I hit N and I said recalculate normals there. And then the next thing I did was I went to mesh and chose normals flip, and then mesh normals recalculate outside. And basically what this is doing is kind of telling the textures to kind of realign themselves. So the next thing is in the export settings, I had to make absolutely sure that apply transform was checked. And then the other thing that I changed is under the geometry here, I also changed the smoothing to normals only, or to face from normals only. So you want to choose face on that as well. And then I think that was it. And so that once I made those changes and pulled it back in, you'll see here I can get rid of the old model that I had previously in there that didn't look quite right. You can see on the left there some of my other tests of this with various pieces of armor and things like that. But yeah, we'll go ahead and pull them in here, and that fixed the texture problem. So that was a little bit of a pain, but after finding those different configuration settings, that fixed the textures on there. So yeah, we've got them in Unity now, which is super exciting. And you can see here under the full armor all of the different parts. So I can go ahead here real quick and show and hide. The idea is when you say for example, show the chest armor, you want to hide the player body because you don't want any of the geometry to be poking out. So you kind of toggle one on, toggle one off. And so you can see there, and actually this is where I just realized the head is part of the body, and when we turn off the body geometry, we don't want the head to go away too. So I think I'm actually going to switch back over to Blender here real quick and take care of that. So we're going to use the same strategy that we used before, basically just to separate that head part from the body. So making a mesh here, kind of getting it lined up, and splitting, split by loose parts there. And so great, now we have a head part of the hierarchy as well. All right, so let's go ahead and export this, and then what we're going to do is rig it for animation. So this was kind of another discovery of mine, is I was trying to animate multiple things at once, and then I thought, well, what if I just load all of the geometry in all at once, including the armor and the player model, and just rig it that way. Now, of course, this might deform the armor a little bit, even though it's supposed to be plate, but honestly, I think it looks fine. It looks pretty natural. You'll see in the test later when I kind of run it through the animator window there. So AccuRig, if you've never used it before, it's pretty nice. I find it to do a generally better job than Mixamo in a lot of cases. I think you can fine tune things a little bit better than in Mixamo. And it's a desktop app, so it's kind of convenient that it just runs locally. You don't have to be uploading files to the cloud and things like that. So, this is very similar to Mixamo here. You just place these markers. It gives you a nice little indicator in the top right there of where to place them. And we're just kind of getting our guy set up here for rigging. And so like I mentioned for hands, I'm actually not going to do any finger rigging because getting those finger pieces to line up just wasn't worth it. So the hands won't animate for now. Like I said, I might do another follow-up in a future video to do that, but those are pretty complex. So we're going to go ahead and export here. And you want to choose target application to Unity as an FBX. And we'll export that FBX out now. So we have a rigged and animated character with modular chunks of armor. Pretty cool. So let's pull this guy back over into Unity here. And one thing that you'll need to do here is line up your textures. So those PNG files that hold the textures are in the project right now. I had pulled them in before. I'm just going to throw them in a texture folder down here. But you want to export those from Blender so that you can set them up on your material here inside of Unity. So we're getting rid of the old model that we had previously imported that was not rigged, and now we've got a rigged version of our barbarian warrior here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate the materials out of the model, because you can set them from within here, but you can't edit the materials while they're a part of the actual FBX itself. So I just hit Control D a couple of times and extracted those out, and then I assigned them to the materials on the object. So that means it'll use whatever materials are there. So I'm gonna set the base map here. So what I need to do actually is go to that textures folder and find the map for the player. So that's going to be the brown and pinkish one. And so we drag that onto the base map. And so now we have the skin and all that for the player model. And then same thing for the armor model here. We'll drag that into the base map. All right, so we've got our character here inside of Unity, and he's looking good. Next, we're going to want to click on the rig tag here and choose humanoid and hit apply. This is for the animations to work appropriately. And so now we can test it out. So I'm going into my animator here, and this is kind of an easy way I found to test out animations, see how they look. You can drag things from your hierarchy, and great, like it looks really, really good. The armor seems to move pretty naturally. Like I said, it's gonna twist and bend a little bit. It's not going to be static plate that just kind of stands there, but I think it looks perfectly fine. And then one thing I realized when I expanded out this armor rigged was it actually, for the names of the children, named them by material instead of by the parts that they were that I had done in Blender for some reason. So I had to go in here real quick and rename these. And so once that's done, we're gonna actually unpack the prefab so we can make some modifications to the individual parts that we have here. So if it's stuck as a prefab in Unity, you can't really make any changes to the children objects, like rearrange them and things like that. So yeah, let's get it organized here. And then what I'm actually going to do here is kind of give you what a bit of a final look is going to be. So we're going to hide the player parts for the armors here, so you can see how it does. You know, if you don't hide the underneath player parts, they kind of stick out. But once I hide them all, you can see he's got his full armor set on, no clipping, no issues with gaps or anything like that between the armor, because it's just the armor model. I've hidden the parts of the player model underneath. And so, like I said, you can uncheck individual parts. So I'm just doing this in the editor right now, but imagine, you can write some code so whenever you equip a certain item, it shows or hides the different parts on the player's body. So, if you wanted to have slots for like chest plate and arm plate and bracer and things like that, you can set it up that way and kind of just show and hide the different armor parts. Just kind of playing around here a little bit with the different pieces to say, you can see all the different configurations. And the other cool thing you can do here is you can assign different color materials for each of the armor parts as well. So I'm going to duplicate this out and call it like leg material or armor leg material. And then I can go ahead and select just the leg armor over here in the inspector, and then drag that leg material in there. And then if I want to make that a different color, like, for instance, maybe green or something like that. Now, this is a little tricky, right? Because the base color that I chose was blue. So in hindsight, I probably should have made it like a grayscale or closer to a white, just so you could really kind of play with the different color shades and stuff like that. But at any rate, you could have different qualities of armor, right? Like you could have different colors. You could do a lot of different things here to kind of customize the individual pieces if you wanted to. So the last thing I wanted to show you here actually is kind of how I turned this into the shiny texture that you saw at the beginning of the video. So what I'm going to do is I am going to select the material that I have set on all the armor pieces here. And what you want to do is change your shader. There's this Autodesk Interactive Universal Render Pipeline, and it gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of setting up your colors and your maps and things like that. So what I can do here is turn the metallic all the way up to make it nice and shiny like that. And then I can play around with the color here, so I can adjust it, make it look a little darker, a little brighter. Now, as you'll notice, the trim obviously is all the same color. The black kind of underneath part that we had in the original texture doesn't show up anymore, but if you want a nice solid color like this that you can completely configure in Unity, it works great. So that is going to do it for this one. I know this was a little bit of a longer video, but there was a lot going on here, obviously. It did take me quite a while to put this pipeline together, and there's still a lot of issues with it. It's certainly not perfect, but I wanted to get it out here and share it with you guys. If you've come up with a better way to do this sort of thing, or you have ideas on how to handle this, please let me know in the comments. I really appreciate any feedback that you guys have. So yeah, again, this was obviously, a little bit longer of a, more of a deep dive than usual, but I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it helpful. I had a lot of fun, a lot of frustration trying to get this to work the way I wanted to. And in the end, we got this really cool modular armor set. And next thing, we could do is we could add other types of armor. We could add leather or chain. This scales out pretty well. So anyway, sorry for rambling. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your support, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.